Good morning, everyone. Have you ever been at an event like this where the host or whoever's up on stage says hello, and then after the answer says hello again because they're trying to get you to say it louder and with more energy? I'm not going to do that. You had your chance. But welcome. Welcome to Transform 2018. My name is Tom Weber, and I will be your captain during this two-day event, and I'm really looking forward to learning a lot today and tomorrow. By show of applause, because I can't see any of you with these lights, by show of applause, who here is a repeat Transform attendee? This is not your first rodeo. Applause. And who here is here for the first time? Oh, very good. Very good. This is great. Well, we wouldn't be calling it a conference, we wouldn't call this conference Transform if we ourselves weren't also trying to transform how we run this event. So if you are a repeat customer, I hope you'll notice some things we're trying a little differently. We're always trying to improve the experience for you, for all of the people here. There are plenty of opportunities to speak with other people here that you're with and to meet the speakers and to network. But even in this main session, we're going to be more conversational, and that's where you come in. And we have a website, excuse me, that you can all access on your phones or devices. If you go to, don't say Poliv, I made that mistake, it's PolEV, it's Pol everywhere, polev.com/TXFM. It's pretty easy to use. You go to that website and just type in whatever question you have about whatever you're hearing during these sessions, because after we have our speakers talk, we'll have this conversation, and that's where your questions come in. So briefly, a little bit about myself. I've been a journalist for my whole professional life, about 20 years, dating back to college. For the past 10 years, I worked at Minnesota Public Radio, and here's a little hint, we're in Minnesota right now, just to update you. And I was a reporter covering everything from here to there, and in recent years, I hosted a daily talk show that discussed anything and everything in the news here in Minnesota. I actually recently left NPR, and I'm striking out on my own, and this event is one of those ways in which I'm striking out. I'm very happy to be here. And I did go to journalism school, but here's one thing that either journalism schools don't teach, or in my case, I was too young to actually absorb. Journalism happens, game, set, and match, at one place in every story: listening. Before you write a story, writing is super important. Not here to bash writing, I love writing. Before you record your voice to put your dulcet tones on the radio, and before you do any of the other things that it is to put together a story, what you must do well, and frankly, what takes time to learn, is to listen. I went to Morris, Minnesota, a few months ago. Any Morris, Minnesota people here? Yes! I do. I'm surprised. I'm glad you answered. I was in Morris, Minnesota a few months ago. There's a University of Minnesota campus there that's actually built on the site of what was once a Native American boarding school. These are schools that, frankly, tore young Native kids away from their families to teach them English and religion, how to be American, not Native. The mantra was, kill the Indian, save the man. When I personally hear about this phrase and this term, social determinants of health, I can think of no other determinant as so affecting people as the historical trauma of what this nation did to the people who were here before there was a nation. This very building we're standing on is on land that was taken from the Dakota people. So my job in Morris was to technically lead a conversation. We were having a talking circle with Native students at that school. But really, for more than an hour of conversation, even though I was technically leading that conversation, I probably spoke for 3 minutes. I've been speaking now more than I did during that event in Morris. And a few clarifying questions here and there, but that's all you have to do in some of these cases, and a lot of these stories. People just want to be heard. I mention that because that's your main job here today and tomorrow, to listen. Yes, we want you to engage. Yes, please ask your questions at the PolEV website and speak with others. There's so much networking opportunities. We have people at the tables back there plugged in. going to be visiting with people you've just met here today, but this really is about hearing others. You know, a friend of mine told me that he thinks he heard a saying, or it's his saying, I'm not sure, but that it's impossible to learn and defend at the same time. If you're part of a conversation and you're defending something, you're defending whatever it is, your program, your job, whatever, are you actually actively listening? Or are you thinking of the next thing to say to defend your position? During these group sessions, we're going to hear from 3 to 4 individual speakers about a topic, and at the end we will unpack what we heard and try to thread those presentations together. And I'll be facilitating that. I'll be technically leading that conversation, but I'll be doing a lot of listening. And as you're listening, we rely on those questions as well. So remember, that's pollev.com/TXFM. We are also dedicating more time this year to breakout sessions. We're dedicating more time in these breakout sessions for deeper conversations. And tomorrow, several people who raise their hands will share their perspectives in a type of presentation called Pechakucha. So, excuse me. Another quick story. I recently, I had to go to a hospital, not for myself. My partner's daughter, who's 5 years old, had asthma. And it was bad. She was throwing up, and so we went in to Children's Hospital up in Twin Cities. And as we were checking it, by the way, it was a fantastic experience. The doctors and staff and nurses and everyone there were wonderful. So this is a wonderful thing. This was a wonderful experience. But I did notice when we were checking in, the person checking in, this 5-year-old, showed her a chart. It's a pain chart. It was the 1 to 10, how much does this hurt? And I found that very interesting. 10 is the worst, and she pointed to 9. And I'm not entirely sure what to do with that, considering that her own brain is only developed enough to remember things that happened maybe up to a year ago. So for her, yeah, maybe this was a 9 when you think about all that's happened in the last year. This is also the same kid who a few days later declared that my scary voice is actually scary, but hers isn't. And she was stating this as fact because, again, her brain isn't developed enough to know that opinion as fact isn't a thing, I guess except when it is. So in that moment, yeah, 9 was a good number to pick for her, but what did that teach anyone about her health in that moment? So I questioned that as a customer, and that's really what I come to this conference as a consumer and a customer. I'm not a medical professional. I'm a moderator, and I'm here to help. Some years ago, the medical community listened, as I implore all of us to be doing here today. They did listen and drew a conclusion about pain. And this innovation that happened was that we're now going to ask about pain when we're doing vital signs. So when we're taking your temperature and blood pressure, we're also going to ask you 1 to 10 how much pain you're in. I know that's a big debate, and we're not going to get into that debate here today. But I asked this one question: why was the debate about whether to put pain as a vital sign? Were there other options? What if instead of asking that question to a medical visit, we instead actually decided, as a medical community, to launch an educational campaign to teach the public about pain, and frankly, its importance, so we have a better understanding of what it is and what it's not. So I personally know all about stop, drop, and roll, and just say no, because of what I learned in school with those education materials. So what if we were also teaching 5-year-olds about pain and what it means to actually say 9 when someone shows you that card? Where does innovation happen for people and their health, and where is innovation happening for innovation's sake? We innovated when we added pain, but did we transform? Transform is a platform to ask those questions that aren't being asked, and to listen and to learn. And it's not just the name of this conference, it's what's happening in this world right now that we all know about. How do physicians interact with technology? Where do we provide care and support health? Not just how. I recently learned that there's a contact lens being developed that will measure blood sugar. That's great, that's amazing. But our challenge here today and tomorrow is to talk about those contact lenses in the context of major changes afoot. moving from specialist care to general care, from hospital to home, moving from doctor care to personal care. Here's a quotation for those who are medical professionals. What must you as individuals do to justify the training you have received? The justification must lie in the devotion to the work and the fulfillment of obligation, not only to the patient, but to the public. That's from a commencement address by Will Mayo, one of the founders of Mayo Clinic, in 1910. Total random sidebar, there's a Ken Burns documentary about the Mayo Clinic airing this week on PBS. But I think about those contact lenses and the conversations that we're currently having about getting those lenses to people. We might build a nice clinic to dole them out. We might have insurance companies rushing to cover the cost of those lenses. But what good are those contact lenses if the person who needs the blood sugar reading doesn't have stable housing? Is it possible that instead of building a clinic or covering an expense, the job of a medical company or an insurer is actually to use its own money to build affordable housing for people who will later need those contact lenses, but who will have then gotten that baseline of stable housing? Which of these ideas best addresses health and which addresses health care? Which of these ideas is innovative and which is transformative? Which of these ideas fulfills the obligation, not just to the patient, but to the public? I love learning about stuff I've never heard about, like contact lenses that measure blood sugar. And I love living in the nuance. And that's what I hope to do in this conference as well. We're going to dive into some of the ideas I just talked about more in detail with our speaker. And we will be doing that with your input as well. So another plug to be submitting questions as you hear our speakers at that website, pollev.com. We'll even be revisiting some previous ideas that were shared in previous transforms.